Here. Councilor Latchford. Councilor Kyle.
Here.
Supervisor Ryan.
Here. Okay, we'll go right into this meeting on the Water District. I'd like to introduce Chris Nill, get us started with this. He's been working with us and has been doing analyzing this whole thing for us. Go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Nill, as Dennis pointed out. I'm with an organization called the Northeast Rural Community Assistance Program, and before I launch into my full spiel here on what we've been doing with the town, let me just take a second to explain the nature of my organization. We're a private nonprofit organization headquartered in Massachusetts. However, I'm not coming to you from Massachusetts tonight. I'm a circuit rider for central and western New York State and parts of the North Country. And I'm based in Manchester, which is near Canandaigua. I have a pretty wide range. I really get around working with rural communities and grappling with a variety of different water supply and wastewater management issues. I help communities in various aspects of project development, short of engineering, and that's why you have your engineers on board also. While we don't do engineering work, we help communities in a lot of different things like needs assessment surveys, which I'm going to talk to you about tonight, and other aspects in the preliminary phases of project development, like tapping into potentially viable funding sources, doing other types of surveys to qualify for funding, and helping district formation and the like. Our sources of funding are basically three main federal sources: the Department of Health and Human Services, USDA Rural Development, formerly Farmers Home Administration, and EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. And those sources of grant funding enable us to provide our services free of charge to communities like yours. So there's never a fee for services for the assistance I provide, and I hope it's valuable. What we've been doing with the town, I've been involved with the town since late winter, and we've been looking at the prospect of some water supply projects in various selected areas of the town. And one suggestion I made to the board or to the water committee very early in the process is that it would help a great deal to perform a needs assessment survey in the selected areas in order to determine the severity of need with respect to water supply and septic management. Such a survey, the results of such a survey, if they indicate that there is such a need, would go a great ways towards helping to bolster any prospective funding applications, to get a needed injection of federal and or state money to help offset the local cost of any proposed project. So we developed a survey format for this purpose. I guess probably many of you in this room have already seen and filled out such a survey. And what I want to report about to you tonight are the results only for the Bundyville neighborhood. We kind of put we put the Bundyville analysis on a fast track so that we could get something to you tonight, and I want to share that with you and of course answer any questions that you may have about it. The executive summary of the draft report for the Bundyville neighborhood is a handout that I guess most of you have. If we are short any copies, I think we can burn up a few extras on the photocopier after the meeting. But I think what I'd like to do, because I don't have this memorized and I don't have all the statistics in my head, but we did go through the analysis, and probably the best way, since it's short, is just read the executive summary to you. So if you'll bear with me. The town of Volney requested the assistance of the Northeast Rural Community Assistance Program to undertake a needs assessment survey in selected areas of the town where public water supply and or sewerage may be a feasible prospect. This report presents and analyzes data for the Bundyville neighborhood. A survey questionnaire was developed in January, and copies were sent out to Bundyville residents during the summer. The subject area comprises approximately 66 residential households. 26 completed surveys were returned to the town office. This figure represents approximately 39% of the households that were contacted. The survey responses were tabulated in accordance with standard statistical procedures. Several cross-tabulations were performed in order to identify certain data trends and potential problem areas. 62% of the households in the areas surveyed, well, just the Bundyville area, it should say, rely on drilled wells. The balance have dug wells. Average well depth is nearly 43 feet. Only 4 wells, 15%, are over 60 feet deep. Generally speaking, shallow wells are influenced to a much greater degree by potential contamination from surface and near-surface sources, such as infiltration from septic leach fields, agricultural runoff, and the like. Shallow wells less than 60 feet deep generally are not recommended except under the most pristine conditions. It would appear that there's a relatively high incidence of shallow wells in the study area that I should say may be eminently susceptible to contamination from a variety of sources. 69% of all respondents have not recently had their water supply tested. The untested wells should be of some concern here. Cross-tabulation of survey results shows that 72% of the untested wells are less than 60 feet deep, and 33% are less than 100 feet from a septic leach field. We have a little bit less information on the septic management side, and I can go into the reasons later on, but what we do have is that, well, as you probably know, all of the households in the area rely on conventional septic tanks and leach fields. Most respondents, nearly 90%, report that they do not have problems with their septic systems, but interestingly, nearly 1 out of 4 respondents reported that they believe septic disposal problems exist elsewhere in the neighborhood. There appear to exist sufficient grounds to explore in greater detail the feasibility of developing water supply and possibly sewerage in the Bundyville neighborhood. The level of need for either type of public facility is not uniform throughout the study area. However, the specter of supply deficiencies, strong potential for contamination given shallow well depths, and related trends seem sufficient to merit priority attention and closer examination by local officials. A preliminary engineering report should be prepared. A lot of this is in the future tense. Actually, I know that a study has been prepared, which along with input gathered from subsequent public informational meetings would provide the town board with a sound basis for determining whether a major public infrastructure project is in the best interest of the town, or I might add, in this case, the Bundyville neighborhood specifically. There are state and federal programs offering grant dollars and low-interest subsidized loans that can go a long way towards bringing annual user costs down to an affordable range. The town will need to act aggressively in order to avail itself of the funding opportunities offered through these programs. To complete this needs assessment phase, local officials should, first of all, meet with Oswego County Health Department officials to discuss water supply and wastewater management issues affecting the subject area. Second of all, conduct a public informational meeting, such as what we're having tonight, to collect additional input concerning the water supply and wastewater management. And finally, if possible, assist property owners in testing their water supplies. That's the essence of the report, really in a very small nutshell, because there was more data that came out. And quite frankly, since I had to put this report on kind of a fast track to have something ready for you tonight, there are still a few gaps. I want to do a little further analysis. I think we can draw some additional conclusions from the data that we've collected. And I know there are probably still more surveys coming in, and we can continue to tabulate and have a revised final report ready for the town board and the water committee later on. but I wanted to have something for you tonight, and so this is what we've got. I'd be more than happy to entertain any questions or responses to this information, any clarification that I can add.
Just hold up our hands.
I guess.
Yes, please give your name.
John Haney. One thing that concerns me is we're sort of mixing the sewer and the water. Is there some way that we can keep those separate, or should keep them separate? They could be mentioned at the same time, but at least keep the problems separated, because I'm sure more people are interested in the water, and the sewage is another added expense, and we don't want to get into one big morass.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, and just to voice my own opinion, that they are two very separate issues. They would obviously be very separate projects, and the only reason I mentioned them, perhaps it sounded like almost in the same breath here, is because we tried to ask questions concerning both issues within one survey, so as not to go out and have to survey all over again on the other issue. But I think it's a valid point. I don't know if there's some more reaction.
Well, I believe basically we're here tonight on water, and water alone, that's what we're here for. Yes.
I'm Dominic Lavelli. I live on the Kingdom Road. There's a couple questions which I want to get out to you, and I would like to know, first of all, what happened to the original report that was made when Challenger was being built? We had an engineering report back in between 1974 and 1979, which stressed the area that I presently live in, from Howard Road north down to what you're calling the Bundyville area, which we, as far as I know, still live in the Bundyville area. We live on the Kingdom Road. And as far as the map is concerned, the county map, we're still in the Bundyville area. But what you're referring to is the lower end of Bundyville, which is the riverside. And I don't understand why we, up on the upper end, didn't get a letter, because I've been to the town board several times requesting that water be implemented in the area, because we have to get 7 to 10, maybe 12 truckloads of water a year. Now, why are you just singling out that one area? I think what you should do is take the whole town as a composite and then go from there. Because everybody is drawing water. It's not just me, it's not just my neighbor, but everybody else along the road. And so consequently, my concern is don't segregate, just that lower end by the hospital area where they brought in metropolitan water. I think that you should bring in the whole package, the whole town, and go from there. I mean, if you look at that report in 1974 to 1979, I don't know where it's at, Barbara or Dennis, but someplace there's a report that says that area should not have been built up the way it is. There's an overabundance of people in the area for the amount of water that's in the ground. Now, yeah, I could sit here and talk all night, but there's ways of coming in for the water. We can go from Scriba. Scriba wants to build a County Route 53 water. We could talk to Fulton, bring it in that way, or we could tap in from where Seneca Hill is. If the state would let us, drive underneath the road. But the easiest way I see it is to bring us water, and if you're the engineers, then look at these points. I hope I don't know what I'm going to say. Yes, Dennis?
Tonight's subject is on the Bundyville area, basically because that water line's there. There's another survey that we're working on, and I have a map, but this one's not what's up tonight. that's very possible that the Kingdom Road will be having water.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, it's not going to happen this fall.
What I'm saying, Dennis, is that survey, that engineering report, when Challenger was brought in, stated that the water should be implemented in the areas. And it's told how many gallons of water was being brought up from the ground. I have it someplace, but I didn't bring it with me tonight. But it's available and it's here someplace in the town.
I think all I could say in response to this, first of all, I can't speak to this issue with Challengers. I'm not informed enough about the history of development in the town. But as for why you may have slipped through the cracks and not been sent a survey, I think maybe we need to go back and revise our lists, and if it's an area...
I mean, we're only a hop, skip, and a jump off that water line. We're only a hop, skip, and a jump. I mean, you could, come off of that one and...
I relied pretty much on local leaders here who contributed to establishing a master list of residents who would be sent surveys. If that needs some revision and we need to include others, it's at the discretion of the town. And I basically work at their pleasure, working with the information that they collect.
Well, you might look into that information from Challenger.
Okay, from the Bundyville area, has there anyone got any questions? There must be some.
Yes, Dennis,
Yes.
how are we doing on getting our survey done of the individual people down there that we discussed at the last meeting we had here that I attended?
As far as the signatures,
Yes.
right now I don't
Who's doing it?
I don't think anyone's doing it right now. I think we're waiting until after this meeting. This is an informational meeting.
I understand that. I'd like to find out who's doing it, when are they going to start? When are we going to see any kind of reality into this water? Next year, 2 years down the road, or this fall, or?
Well, we have representatives here from Aqua, and if we can get this thing passed, I don't know. I mean, they're not waiting just for the town of Volney. They have other work, but I don't know how soon they could start it. I believe it would be a possibility that it could be done this fall, couldn't it? I mean, in that area, because the main line's in. You're putting in taps. That's what's going to go down through there.
It runs behind our house and in front of our house, for one place. The new line does.
We still have to get 51% of the residents down there to say yes to this thing?
Yes, we do.
But when are we going to start this?
We've got petitions here tonight. Somebody wants to start carrying them. Yes.
Sue Pringle, and I am in the town of Volney, in the Bundyville area. I have a couple questions. First, I want to know what's the bottom line, what it's going to cost us as a homeowner, as an individual, the bottom line cost of what this is going to cost us up front, out of our pocket, to have this put in.
Cost of the water line, too.
Actual cost, I believe, right now, we're looking at $333 a year net. Well, the engineer's here. He has the study on that.
Okay, but we're not paying from the road to our,
Yes.
You would have to pay from the road to your house. That's your job. That's a one-time hookup.
Off the pipe that goes from across your land. Now, like Tom and I, we own about 850 feet. Would we have to pay for any of that pipe, or just from the pipe at the road into our house?
Just from the road to your house.
That goes out there, too.
But you're not in the Bundyville district right
No,
now.
but I still think, I go see Mr. Hartranft first.
okay, what is the deal on it? Like, say I own property and I own a place next to myself and it's hooked into my, how does that work with a situation like that? I'm speaking for a neighbor that couldn't be here tonight because they're out of town.
These are going two separate services.
They're two separate services.
Tap off your house, you mean tap off your house and go to the residence next door? Is that what you're saying?
No, I want to know what it's going to cost. Like, can it be done? Can two separate residents, why can't it be one if it's that person?
Share a ditch? Share a ditch from the road, you mean, or something? I guess I'm confused on.
Go through 1 meter. I'm familiar because I'm a neighbor as well.
Oh, okay.
It's one deed. you know, man owns a property and he's got a trailer nearby on his own property, same deed, where his daughter lives. Right now, he's supplying both buildings from his well. So the question is could he tap into his house and off the same meter supply both places on his property? It'd be no different than having a second floor to the house.
Dennis, on that particular question, I guess I could answer that. I'm Jerry Rickoff. I'm the engineer for the town. Each house or each residence has to have their own separate service. If you have, and I figured out in this, if you have, there's a couple of them that have 2 and 3 residents on each one parcel, one tax deed. Each one of those houses is charged for a separate service. That's one of the reasons for that is a health code. You can't have 2 residents coming off of the same meter.
Yes.
I'm Derek Olson. Would that be the key, that you could have one line running back with 3 meters off of it?
Not a service. I'm Peter Pellins. I'm with the Water Authority, not a service line.
Yeah.
Like Jerry said, for each unit or dwelling you have on your property, you have to have individual services.
A separate service line, no way of running a larger service, a sub-main or whatever you want to call it, that would pick up 3 places.
Then we call that a main extension.
Yeah.
And our cost is about $15.84 a foot.
Okay, in other words, an individual couldn't do that themselves.
That is correct. You can't.
Yes.
I'm Marilyn Lockery. I'm in the Water District area too. I'm in the same situation, but the mobile home on our property isn't always going to be there. When that's removed, will the unit be taken off with my taxes? No.
That's a good question.
You know, I only have 4 acres of property. I don't have a lot of land. And right now, the mobile home is housed by my mother-in-law, and she's old, and when she passes away, we're going to remove it. And I'm just curious as if I would still have to pay for 2 units for the 30 years.
I guess that's something that has to be figured out by the tax assessor.
Easier. Yes, Bill.
I'd just like to bring something up. Back 3 years ago when Mr. Hooker and, pardon me, but the green shirt guy here was here. I can't remember names. But at one of our informational meetings in the back room there, we were talking, and a couple of us talked about gerrymandering this district down there. Forming a district where the people that want to be on the water line, let them be on the water line, but leave out the ones that don't want to be, so they could have water. But the majority of the town board at that time said all or none. Were the difference in a...
I don't believe the town board ever made that statement.
Huh?
I don't believe the town board made that statement.
This is
Since
back
I've been
at one of the meetings that we had. I don't know if he remembers or not, but Mr. Hooker was there, and he was there, and we were all talking back there at the hospital. And that was thrown up in right away. A couple of people that said, no, we ain't going to do that. It's going to be all or none. And I just wanted to, maybe that could be still done to get this through faster for the people that want it, form the district by gerrymandering it. Put the people on it that want it. Then in future years, if somebody wants to join in on it, they just have to make up the payments to join in on it. But I just wanted to, it's still a viable issue and working for the town people, to get that water that wants it.
Dennis, on that, I believe that with the state controller's office, you can't have what they call a sawtooth district unless you have a valid reason, economic reason why you can't do it. You have to serve basically everybody or nobody.
Yeah, there are a lot of good reasons not to try and do any fancy gerrymandering of districts just to win approval. There's that fact, the Department of Audit and Control, which probably want to approve the district. And then also, from the standpoint, if you're going to go after state and federal funding, they look at those kinds of factors very closely too, and they want a benefited area to be logically and rationally defined in terms of need for the project. And objective need, of course, may not coincide with opinion whether people are for or against the district, but you have to define the area rationally rather than gerrymander it in order to win funding as well. So there are a lot of good reasons not to try and do any fancy gerrymandering.
Yes.
Okay, I just got the one question left, and then I'll keep my mouth shut. Would you please define the boundary lines for the Bundyville district?
There's a map right up there that shows it. The part highlighted in yellow is what we're calling, the common name is the Bundyville Water District, but the official legal name is the Oswego Healthcare Campus Water District, extension number 1. And the yellow is the district that we're forming now.
Now, what is the outer limits of it, is what I want to know. What, is it a road, a street? A lot?
Basically, it's Route 57 and Vacuum Cooler Road.
41 in the river.
Basically between the road and the river, right?
It's between 481 and the river, and it starts at Vacuum Cooler and goes up to the hospital property.
Well, the vacuum cooler, is that down at Ricketts Crossing?
Yes.
Yes.
It's further south. Vacuum Cooler Road is
Back down from,
Well, it's down by Armstrong.
towards that way.
Yes.
Does this existing line, this new line that was put in for the hospital, does this now currently today service the Seneca Hill residents in Seneca Hill?
Yes, it does.
Then why can't we be a part of the Seneca Hill Water District then?
Well,
If
basically,
this water is serving Seneca Hill, then why can't we be a
if
part of it?
Seneca Hill was put into this water district, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this would be a legal thing for Ren, but their line's been into the point where it's paid for. I mean,
That's fine, but us residents, us 60-some residents that are involved could pay our share, but why can't we be part of the Seneca Hill Water District? Why are you splitting it up and making 2 water districts when we're only a mile and a half the full distance from where that pumping station is on the Vacuum Cooler Drive to Seneca Hill?
What would be my question would be is what's the difference if it's Seneca Hill or if it's Bundyville?
That's exactly what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying, what difference? Make it all one water district.
We understand that we are going to have to pay 300 and whatever a year for 30 years.
We don't care.
We don't, that's not what, but the existence is, the line is
Petition to
there
extend
now.
it. I believe we still have to petition to try to extend the water district.
Who's the attorney here?
Ron Carr.
Ron, wasn't it when this was...
Do we have to go out and get petitions if we form this into one district?
I'm not even clear on the establishment of the so-called Seneca Hill Water District. I think the so-called Seneca Hill Water District, as I understand it, and I will share with you sometimes I have a problem with the geography, but was really an agreement, a water service agreement of sorts between the town of Volney and Scriba, the adjoining town, whereby the 2 towns agreed to provide a water service to this area that we're calling Seneca Hill. And under the agreement, they assessed the costs of it on an equal basis. But generally speaking, what was originally referred to as the Seneca Hill Water District, as I understand it, through comptroller opinions and my understanding of the laws, you can't really have a joint town district. So what was originally defined as the Seneca Hill Water District, I have a problem that it's a true, in effect, water district.
Water district,
Okay.
exactly. So
Now, when this line came in, I understand that through basically the agreement with Scriba and the town, it was capped at the line, the town line, and then the remaining section of the so-called Seneca Hill Water District received the water from Aqua's line, and then the Scriba side of it is receiving it from Oswego. So to answer, it's a long about way to say is that if that is a water district, Seneca Hill, and I don't believe, quite frankly, I'm not convinced that it is, but if it is, you would have to have an extension of that district, which would take either a petition or the process that basically you're undergoing here from the other side of it.
Before anybody goes out and makes a fool of themselves like we did last year, when my neighbor went out and got all these petitions and got 51% of the assessed valued residents to approve this water district, and then be told here at the town board meeting that he didn't do it because he didn't have the legal papers. Do we have all the legal petitions and everything up there for someone to go out and start talking to these residents in this affected area?
Yes. Yeah.
And I can take your word for it, because if I'm going to go out and talk to somebody, I want to make sure I got everything legally in front of me that I need.
Well, let me tell you, what's up there is a petition in legal form. Okay, it complies with the requirements of a petition. Attached to it, that's required, is a copy of this map and study. Okay, that sets up all the dollar values that you're talking about.
And the exact cost of what it's going to be for each resident.
Well, yes, it's an
Well, that's gotta be
estimated yearly cost. It's right in there. I believe it's $333 per unit per year. That's the average estimated cost for that year.
And the actual cost?
That's all in there. The only thing you have to worry about, and I use the word worry, I mean, you don't have to worry about it, is obviously it has to be executed correctly. Okay, so it has to be signed by the people and
Well,
acknowledged.
there was a lot of egg through on a lot of people's face when this thing was done a year ago, or just this past winter, last fall, and a man went out there and done it in good faith to be told that it was no good and illegal.
Well, what happened was that's correct. As a petition to formulate a district, the document wasn't sufficient.
But he got it from the town.
Well, I don't know where he got it.
And the attorney, whoever's representing the town at that time, should have made sure that he had all that stuff there and ready to go. Now, that man's pretty disappointed over this whole...
Well, but I believe, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, but if my memory serves me, what happened was they just turned that. See, there's a couple ways you can come at formulating a district, and I think what occurred is they took the basis of that petition, in other words, as an indicator, and the town passed a resolution under a different provision to adopt the district, which we had to submit it to referendum, and I think it was defeated in referendum, wasn't it? So I mean, it wasn't like it didn't, in a sense, go forward, but as a petition format, it wasn't in proper form.
Well, I have no problem going around and talking to these people, but I have to do it on a limited basis because of the job that I do, because I'm not home as much as I should be. But I want to make sure I got all the legal documents and doing things right before I go knocking on doors, house to house.
I too have looked over the petition in its current form, and although I'm not an attorney, it does conform to everything I've seen in all.
Well, I want the town attorney to assure me that it's conformed with all the regulations that we've got here this evening.
It does. The only thing that I just point out to you, that as a petition, somebody said 51%. I actually believe it's 50% of the assessed valuation, 50% of the ownership of the assessed valuation within the proposed district, which also should include 50% of the resident owners of assessed value of the
We were
district.
told the last time we had to have 51% of the assessed valued property in the area.
Well, the law states and the petition states, and anybody that wants to read it, it's kind of all right there in the petition. It's not meant to be complicated, but if you stop and think of it, it makes sense. It's 50% of the assessed value, okay, of the owners of property in the district. Also, all the signatures must also represent 50% of the residential owners within that district, okay? Because some people might own property and not be residents within the district. So those are the signatures you have to get. Those signatures have to be signed before the person acknowledging the petition, and if that's all done, and when it's all submitted, if that's the figures, you've got a perfectly valid petition there.
Every signature has to be witnessed, and, the execution is key, and your attorney...
What do you mean by witness?
Really
Witness by the person that's signing it, or?
That's correct. I mean, you can't,
Yeah.
you can't be carrying it or going to acknowledge the signatures and hand it to somebody, go have a cup of coffee, and
Well, I
they...
understand that. I
They
have to
sign
witness
it.
their signature right there.
That's right.
I understand.
That's right. And all I'm suggesting is that the format of the petition is 100% correct. The only thing that could throw you off, if you will, is not the sufficient number, or if it were improperly acknowledged or signed. I mean...
Along with that petition, is that everything there that's going to, so that someone can intelligently explain to these people exactly what all the costs are going to be?
I believe so. It's all laid out. The whole map.
That's going to be with the petition?
It's right attached to it, yes, sir.
It has to be an attachment, and it is there.
Okay, now another question. Another question to Aqua. Cost of water meters, is that in the petition?
Yep.
What size line do you have to run over 430 feet?
I would like to talk to you about that, but I would say at least, it would have to be at least an inch, 1 inch water line. First of all, you're going to have a meter pit. So you're going to pay about $650 for that meter pit. And off the top of my head, I would recommend that you install 1.5 inch plastic. Nobody get that confused. It has to be type K copper before the meter. Since he's 400 feet back, the meter pit will be out at his property line. Between that meter pit and the water main, it will be type K copper.
Yeah, I understand that.
You may
you're
understand.
telling
I want to
me-
make sure everybody understands.
You're telling me that water pit and that meter and that water pit's going to cost $650? $650?
Yes.
To put that whole unit in there?
Yes.
And the cost of the water line too?
No. The water, everybody's going to be getting an individual water line to their property line or right-of-way line.
I understand that, because I put water lines in before, yes.
If you want to build a meter pit, we'll give you our specs on it. You can go ahead and build it. If you've done it before, I'm sure you probably can do it for less than $650.
If I can interject at this point, if there aren't, yeah, but I was just going to say, if there aren't more questions on the needs assessment survey itself, that's mainly what I was involved with, and we do have other specialists in other areas here too, to address other issues, like ones that are rising now.
My name's Larry Bailey. I live in the district. If this ever comes up to a vote again, like we did on the last time, are we be able to have a proxy vote? I mean, like I go to Florida every 3 or 4 months, and if you throw that thing in there, and I ain't gonna be able to vote, to me that's against me. So we couldn't have a proxy vote the last time on the referendum.
This isn't processing out as a referendum. I mean, the way these petitions go, remember I said that there are actually, shall we say, 2 ways to formulate the district. One would be, in a sense, for the town to do it themselves, make their own motion, say we're going to have a district. In that kind of a situation, before you formulated it, you'd have to have a referendum or a vote of the people, okay? Because the town's doing it, the people would vote on it. Here, the people signed the petition, presented to the town, and once the town receives that, all things being equal, and I'm sure they probably are, if the petition is proper, the town can order the district formed, but it's based on the petition of the people, so there is no referendum. Okay. There may be a referendum if certain financing comes up. I mean, in terms of, bond resolutions.
So you're...
Yes.
Virginia Lund, I'd like to talk to Mr. Carr a minute. On that petition,
yes, ma'am.
Do you have a cost on that? Because these people that are taking the petition around, they don't have time to wait while somebody keeps reading through to see what the cost is. On that petition, you should have a cost. Without them reading all of this literature.
Well, the law requires, what the format of the petition should be, but attached to the petition itself is this document that we're calling a map and plan. It's a document. And part of that map and plan, there is a section of it that spells out the unit costs.
But then they still have to read it, right?
Well, they'd have, yeah, I would hope they,
Read the whole thing.
well, they,
Because
yeah.
I came out and read it, I mean, it takes a while to read it.
But speaking on that, like my husband was asking questions to the gentleman from the water there, nothing has been put down as costs, initial cost to the people themselves. This is what it's going to cost for the district, $300 and something a year for 30 years. The water district is already, the water line is basically runs by most of our homes to begin with. That part of it. So we know we're going to have to pay that. But when it comes time and these petitions are going around, shouldn't there be some, even approximate cost, like my husband was talking to this gentleman here about the pipeline going into these people's homes, what it's going to generally cost them, because these people they're only getting this $333 that it's going to cost them a year for 30 years. They're not getting the initial cost, so that they're not going to be in total shock when they approve it, that it's going to cost them, well, for us, for instance, it was going to cost us over $600. But that's minor compared to the people that have to have water being brought into their homes by the truckloads. But the thing of it is, and the fact that it's going to be a one-time deal paying for that cost. But I honestly think that there should be another piece of paper that may be added on to this informational sheets stating that generally what the cost is going to be for the individual homeowner to install it from the pipeline into their homes.
I want to speak about that. I've been in the business for 34 years, and at $650 only gives him a meter pit.
That's all.
Not a line into his house, okay?
Right.
That's right.
What's the distance?
It's 400.
It's going to be 400 feet. People
No, to
call
where you have to have the meter pit.
over
What's the minimum?
150 feet minimum, anything over 150. People call all the time, not just me, but the guys who work with me, wanting to know, what is it going to cost me to run it from my property line into the house? I instruct my people, you don't know, because we don't know. I also tell my people, make no recommendations of anybody to do it. Because all I have to do is tell you that Tony Geis is a great guy and he can do it cheap. And if he messes it up, you're going to be calling me up. What I suggest, what you people do, call your neighbors in Minetto, okay, who had this done last year, and ask them what they paid to bring the water line into their house. That's the safest way.
In Minetto last year, they've had that for years, but
We
anyway.
put new water lines in Minetto 2 years ago, so there were a lot of people in Minetto that had to apply for service, okay?
3/4 inch type K copper, I know is going to cost you at least $1.29 a foot. And I just had an Aquin engineer, retired engineer, do a survey for me, and the plastic 1.25 pipe is going to cost me 54 cents a foot to put it in. And type K copper, 3/4 inch is $1.20 a foot.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I think that initially, beyond the cost of what it's going to cost from us going across the front of our property lines, initially, maybe some of these people who maybe have been on a well all their lives should be made aware of the fact that it is going to cost them beyond that amount, that it is going to cost them to, so they're not deceived in thinking that $333 or $250 a year or whatever is going to be the only cost they're going to have.
Nobody has ever been told that. Every meeting we have ever had here, and we've probably had 7 or 8, it's always been, we tell the people from the valve that's out by the road from the right-of-way to the house, they're responsible for, and we don't know because 10 feet of pipe or whatever can make a difference in the cost. We don't know.
Well, what Sherry's trying to say, what my wife is trying to say is, how much is the water going to cost each resident per year? Are you going to charge us X number of cents per gallon? It's all right.
The financial report is 333 gallons of food an estimate of $126 a year for water. Okay, the people in quote-unquote Seneca Hill Water District are paying on the average $126 a year. Okay, for water. Yes, water comes out of your faucet, your toilet.
Most everyone
Was mailed these. Obviously, some, they weren't read, obviously, or most of those answers were in here. So that the reason they were mailed directly to the people.
But not everyone is here tonight, and I don't know if, you don't know whether everybody is going to be made aware of.
Everything is in the petition that we're going to carry around is there, and if people ask questions, you can say, okay, here it is right here.
They should already have it.
That's all I want to know.
Yes.
I just think in fairness to the town and the information meetings that have been going on, and it is televised, that I think the citizens have a certain amount, a certain obligation to do some checking themselves. I think you can only say so much. I don't think anybody could quote me how much it's going to cost me, not knowing how much length and all of that. So I think that, I think the meetings are being televised.
What I'm trying to say is, and you're not in our district.
Right.
So, but what I'm trying to say, and that's a good reason why I have not come to very many town board meetings, is because you got people like yourself, and I've watched you on television, and until you were put into a position, you voiced your opinion many, many times.
Oh, certainly, and I will again.
And I hope so. But what I'm trying to say is we're talking in behalf of the people that are here for County Route 57, and if any of them are here that might be here listening to wondering what's going to happen on 176 or any of those areas to get information themselves, is the fact that we have to, if we're going to take petitions around, we want to be able to have some idea so that everyone knows. Now, I've read every piece of paper that's come, and it does not say nothing about what it's going to cost, generally speaking, for the people that from the roadside, what it's going to generally cost them in a so that we'll say if they have to raise the money, save the money. Not everybody can come up with $600,000 out of their reach in their pockets and take it out and pay, because they're also going to have someone that comes in with the equipment to dig from the roadside into their house, put the water line in. So if they could come up with some general idea of what it might cost them. I'm not saying it's got to be written in stone. This is like those figures that you've given. Last year we had a higher amount that was going to cost us for 20, 30 years. Now that you've come up with another figure, and each year it's getting better. Maybe, I don't know, we need the water, but maybe we ought to wait another year. It's going to go down another few dollars by the time maybe we get around to it. So the thing of it is we have to know so that we can go to these people and be able to say, this is what it's going to cost you. You have the information, and whether you've read it or not, this is what it's going to cost you to put your name on for the water. And convince those that maybe don't need water that it's going down the road, if they want to increase the value of their property and maybe sell or whatever, that they are going to have, it might be worth their while to sign their name on there, to have the water, to have because we've had water up until the last couple of years. Heck, we've had all kinds of water. Now, for some reason, this year, our well is that. And I'll tell you, I, for one, don't appreciate stepping in the shower, getting lathered up, and all of a sudden my water cutting out, and not being able to take a shower whenever I feel like it because I got to do a load of laundry or whatever. I don't appreciate things like that, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people here that don't too. Or having to have water trucked in.
Ma'am, as far as the cost figures are concerned for individual properties, I think the engineers here present, without too much trouble, can offer an approximate cost per foot.
No.
You can't?
They're not going to commit themselves to that.
I can't, there's so many variables. I mean,
Because you got so many variables, and every excavator, every contractor charges a different price.
Well, then you've kind of answered your own question.
So the only way around it is to start your own contracting business. Come up with
That way you limit the cost, is like, get like 4 or 5 of your neighbors, think a contractor and say, hey, can you give us a good deal?
Right, but what I'm saying is we still have got to have some idea so that these people are not going, how many of these people here actually knew that it was going to cost them, even for what he said, it was going to cost $600 just for it to go into this meter pit? Did you find that? You just heard that. And how many others just realized that that was what?
Yeah, I knew all about that.
Well, you did, but you...
What you call hidden costs.
And I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but then you came up initially with these costs to begin with, where they came and they were generalized to begin with.
Mr. Supervisor, when are we going to be able to start circulating these petitions around to get the signatures on these petitions? And when we do get the signatures, if we get the signatures within a week, how long is it going to be before we're going to be able to tap into this water line? Because I know that hydrants have to be put in, and I know that curb cocks have to be put in and all that stuff.
Would you have a time, how long would that take to get ready for that?
Flies or what?
It probably could be done this fall, but...
I guess if you get the petition signed, there's still a few steps that have to be done. The petition is signed, the district has to be formed. This doesn't have to be approved by the controller, does it? We just have to...
It looks like it doesn't. Petitions get signed, there still has to be a formal public hearing.
And it can be turned down by a public hearing?
No, but there has to be a formal, this is an informational hearing that's basically a service, but there has to be a formal public hearing that basically has to be published and noticed probably at least 20 days out anyway. I don't know what this is $333 a unit, probably.
That's with water service.
Yeah, and so that's within the factor that it probably wouldn't necessarily require controller approval for the formulation of the district. I mean, on balance, they have to file, the town board would have to file an order approving the district. Financing would have to be put in place. It's going to cost how much? Whatever the figure is to install the line, it's got to be paid for. So
well, the line's already there, we just got to pay for it, that's all.
Certain financing is going to have to be put in place, obviously, to get the money. I don't know. Even a finance, you're going to have at least a 30-day span. So what am I talking about? Another 60, 90 days anyway, assuming a very quick turnover on the petitions. And
I don't want to be out there digging a ditch in December.
So if it takes approximately 90 days to do the district formation and the financing, we also have to do an application to DEC for water service, just like we did on the other one. And that should go easier on this because we've already done an application and basically they reviewed the line, but it's still going to, I guess, take 2 to 3 months to get an approval through for DEC. And we can't start that application until the district is formed. So you're probably try to target 3 or 4 months, and I don't know if depending on the weather, if we can even, if you're even going to attempt it in the wintertime.
Weather permitting, as soon as you get all their applications in order, we'll start.
Probably if everything went, and we got the applications, the petition signed now, I'm guessing sometime in November, December before we can get all the approvals from the different state agencies.
Why can't everything be set in motion right now to get the approval from these state agencies and everything in anticipation that this water district will be put in?
I think there's a couple of reasons you can't do that. As far as the water service application to DEC, part of the application is the district formation. So I can't do the application for that until the district's formed. And I don't think the town would authorize me to start to work and charging for it until the district is formed so that we need to pay.
Why can't we go be a part of the Seneca Hill Water District, all one district?
Even if you are a part of that Seneca Hill Water District, you're still going to have to go through the same thing. You can't just say, I'm going to join this district without...
If we get the petitions to be a part of the Seneca Hill Water District, then we don't have to go through all this other work.
No, you have to, no.
It's the same thing.
It's the same process.
So in other words, you're looking at next spring before anybody can get tapped into that water line. Be honest with us. Don't say December, because you know what December looks like around there.
Well, I guess what I said is December is going to probably be the earliest before you can start, and weather permitting. I don't know what the weather's going to be like in December, if they can even go out. If the weather's bad, I'm sure that Aqua's not going to
We
go out.
all know what the weather is around here in December, if it's a normal winter.
If it's a normal winter, see you in the spring.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And there ain't nobody gonna be digging their yards up in December.
But the longer you wait to form the district, the longer it's going to take to get the line in. So.
What about any grants that are available out there for us? Can we start applying for them now? Is anything out there?
District, right?
Does it have to be
Apply for something that you don't have.
Well,
Oh, you get pre-approval on buying a car or a house.
you can start some legwork on applying for financing, even though the district is not formed yet. If there are good signals that this is going to be a go and that there's widespread public support to form the district, we can supply the documentation later, but we can get going with, if the town wants to apply, for instance, to USDA Rural Development, then we can get an application there for starters, fairly soon.
One of the things too, Dennis, the financing plan that I did is based on the town bonding for it, not going through different state agencies. Some of those agencies have a front-end cost, but I think it's like 1% to 2%.
You're talking about the drinking water SRM? Yeah, they do. You can apply, that's another funding source in addition to the one I mentioned. I was talking about USDA Rural Development with their loan grant program. There's also the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. I guess it would pay to get a pre-application into those folks, but my own take on the issue is that, well, their scoring system is heavily biased towards awarding funding for the rehabilitation of existing water systems rather than extending water to new areas. I have, however, seen some projects involving service to new areas get funded from them. And, you could do that, but it does involve that upfront cost.
The cost that I have here does not include any applications for funding by us, so that could be an additional cost. It depends on the interest rates that you have on which way is actually cheaper to go.
Yeah. As far as USDA Rural Development is concerned, particularly since they're one of our funders that fund our operation, we'd be happy to help you through that whole application process free of charge. So we could get you going on that. The drinking water SRF, I have also worked with communities on that and helped them through that application process. But that's in terms of fees for filing an application, that wouldn't necessarily be an issue. But you were referring to other costs, upfront costs, weren't you?
As far as upfront costs, as far as the applications, or if we.
Well, what I'm saying basically is I could help obviate some of the or avoid some of the upfront application costs because I could help provide those services. But were you alluding to some other costs?
No, just the applications. That takes time for us to do the applications and to properly file them. So that's an additional cost that wasn't figured in this. And plus, like the Bond Act, you have to put, I can't remember, it's 1% or 2% or what it is for issuance. They have a
2%.
2%. So that cost isn't in this. So this is just based on the town bonding for it.
Is that 100% finance?
Yes.
On this, the cost here, was that taken into consideration when we got the new bond out and saved $200,000 in March? I mean, was that reduced in there?
No, that was figured off, what, 6.5% or something?
The interest rate that I used was based on an assumption of 6.5%. And then using that interest rate of 6.5%, I did what I would call a straight line financing. Is if you use a audit control formula for the way they do their financing on a bond, it works out a little bit more than this. I don't know what the town's interest rate is right now that you can get it at.
5.3?
Probably a little more than that. I can't quite be.
So
I mean,
It's 5 something.
At that point.
Right around 5 or 5.5%. My assumed interest rate and the way it was figured is probably going to be about the same as what the town's going to pay at your current interest rate. So if the interest rate does go up, then you might have to refigure these costs here for bonding. That's another reason, the way the interest rates are going, if it does go up, it could make this void.
Can't give us an answer again.
Are you talking about
Things
the
change the
pipeline?
prices all the time.
Are we
Well, I
going
guess-
to book the Howard Road or this side of 57 and
Tonight?
Volney?
That's a whole nother project.
All right, we'll see you later.
Okay.
Are you talking about the pipeline or the whole project on this bonding?
Pardon?
Are you talking about just the pipeline or the whole project?
On the Bundyville district? There was an estimated value put on that pipeline. You're not actually tying into that free.
Are you reducing it 200,000 too, did we say, on that or not? I mean, is that cost out of there too?
Well,
No, the cost that I have here is based on the original.
cost that was never been paid yet. You know, that 200,000, whatever it was.
200,000.
Now, the kicker in the whole finance situation, of course, if you did get funding from an outside agency like rural development or drinking water SRF, in the case of rural development, in their loan grant packages, in the loan portion, given your median household income for this town, you would be eligible, I believe, for the poverty line status of assistance from them, which would be a 4.5% loan. And on the grant side, of course, that would be free money that they would add in addition. Of course, there are communities that get loan only, but at the poverty line rate that you qualify for in this town, it would be a 4.5% rate. Of course, you have to contemplate the worst-case scenario without funding from something like rural development, and then you do have to be looking at those other interest rates. So, I don't know, it's a real judgment call for the town, but looking at all those factors, you have to decide if you've got the best figures in the petition now, or if you want to revise them before circulating them.
Well, you can't revise them too much downward because they, once put in the petition, they become maximum. And you can't go above it.
Yeah.
So you're trying to play God a little bit by projecting what your ultimate financing costs are going to be in the future when ultimately you go to issue this financing. So you're almost compelled, not to be unrealistic, but you're compelled to, shall we say, guesstimate on the upper side of reason, because if you underestimate it, then the whole process goes out the board because you can't exceed the estimated cost factors.
But then that also works the same way when something was said about the interest rate going up. How can you honest and truly hold the line? You've got to almost hold that line. If we get people to sign petitions that at 6 or 6.5%, and they go for it, and then all of a sudden the interest rates goes up, somehow or other that's got to be balanced off too.
Well, I'm assuming if it's through public grants, it's not, the interest rate isn't going to fluctuate like that over the course of the period of that issue. If you're going to go out for a bond issue, that rate is going to not fluctuate. You're going to have a 30-year, 20-year bond schedule that's all going to be figured out in advance.
Let me clarify what I was trying to say. I would never suggest that with the current petition that you redo it to revise the estimates downward.
Yeah.
If anything, given what the engineer was pointing out a few minutes ago, maybe it needs revised upward. That's what I was hearing you saying. I'm not sure.
No,
I don't see it.
the only thing I just said was that the interest rate we're using is 6.5%. The cost,
Oh, 6.5, okay.
yeah, the cost that I have in here is based on the original estimate for the water lines. That original estimate, I understand the water line was put in for less than that, but I'm not going to revise this estimate and make it lower, because what I have to do is I have to come up with what we call a maximum cost.
No, but what I'm saying is somewheres along the line, it's got to be made so that people understand that this is what it's going to be. If in all honesty, that this will be what the loan will cost us, not for 30 years.
It is.
That's it.
The petition goes out and is signed with those figures, that is the cost.
Well, exactly.
It can be less, but it can't be more.
Mr. Carr was saying it there was that it could rise up, which it can't do.
No,
No, I didn't say that.
Petition, we have to change it and do it all over again.
Yes.
John Haney. The thing is in the ground. It's been there a year. We know what it costs, period. And somebody's borrowed the money, and they're paying interest on it. We don't have to argue about it's going to be 6.5 or whatever. That's a known number.
No, it isn't.
Why not?
Because there's additional costs in here for the tapping of the line.
I thought that 650 took care of that.
If you look at the project description that I did, it's all in here, the financing plan is in here, it goes through all of that.
We don't know how much, do we, answer this question, do we know what the water line costs?
The actual installation of the water line? Yes.
That's sitting there?
Yes.
And we know how much interest we're paying?
On that bond?
Right.
Yes.
Now, and we know how much it costs to tap in and put in a meter, $650. Is that true?
Plus additional costs, yes.
What additional costs?
Your additional cost,
Huh?
You cannot be given that water line. You're going to have to...
You're an expense in there.
That's fine, but we know what it costs. It's there.
We already have a cost for you. The maximum cost for the water line, the annual unit charge without purchase of water is $207 a year. That's the maximum cost we have.
Okay.
Figuring an average typical water usage of 20,000 gallons a year is $126.
Why are we discussing the interest rate? That's what I don't understand. That somebody borrowed the money?
Because you're going to have to borrow money for the 92 or whatever amount of services at $650 each, right? And you're going to have to borrow money to pay the hydrant maintenance fee.
Who has to borrow money to pay the $650?
The town.
town's got to borrow money to put hydrants in, then they got to pay Aqua to tap that line for every one of the services that are going to be in the area. And they got to put hydrants in for water service, fire service.
Those are known costs, but you still have to borrow the money. And what Jerry did, he estimated 6.5% interest for 30 years. You read this morning's paper, you're telling me that the interest rates aren't going to go up, everything's flat. So hurry up and sign the petition, get it going, and you'll probably get a less for 6.5.
Okay.
So the idea is that this cost is the maximum under this petition that you're going to pay. It could be less. It won't be more. Okay?
So we're discussing this.
So the numbers are pretty solid.
The amount of money that you're going to have to borrow is the 650 times the 70 hookups, plus the $150 per hydrant or whatever. It's that amount. It's not 6.5% on the existing pipe. So approximately how much more money are you going to borrow at the unknown interest?
700?
794,000.
$77,300.
717.50, right?
That's the portion of the existing line that you're sharing in the cost. On the second sheet at the bottom, it says 77 net cost for the additional cost for the water supply system is $77,300.
What's going to cost
Any more questions?
I have one more question. How long would it take to get our water tested, and how much would that cost? So we could assess whether we need this or not, and we could vote intelligently on the petition.
If you take the same test, which is probably the most vital test you would want to undertake, is roughly $20 a pop. And you can have that done in very short order. And it's always good to test for, at least besides coliform, it's always good to test for nitrates as well. But those would be the two biggies. Each one is about $15 to $20 a pop.
And how would we go about getting it tested? Who would we contact?
There could be a kit.
I work in that department. Yeah, it costs like $20 for you to bring the water to the lab. If we were to come out and do it for an individual, it's $45.
Don't you give them a kit? Can't they pick up just a little
Yeah,
bag
you
kit?
can do a kit yourself, which
Yeah.
is a free. You do have to bring it to the health department yourself, and you take the sample yourself. It's not always effective on whether you contaminate the bag or not, but that's up to you. If you're real careful, you can do it.
I was on top of the figures. It's very
Just stand up.
Yes. The petition's up there and ready to go?
They're here.
I
There's
have
one.
more questions.
I don't know how many, we got more of them around, Barb, right?
How many do I have to have? I'll have one for each resident?
No. Probably add these sheets to this petition, right? If you've got it. I mean, this was a sample, so this ain't got enough sheets in it, but, I mean, it's laid out like that, Ed.
Okay.
And the one she's got how many pages in it? I mean, this one's a sample, it's only got one page, you know?
All the pertinent information is on the backside of that.
The whole thing's in them.
Everything that I need.
Map, the whole thing's in them.
Now, when we had our last, just excuse me for a minute, when we had our last organizational meeting that I attended over here, didn't we agree to send out information sheets other than the survey to let everyone know what the actual cost was going to be? Which was sent out. Which was sent out. Now, that's the same cost that's in that petition, right?
Yep, the sheets were taken right out of one of these petitions.
All right. Okay. I can...
The only thing different is we shrunk the map up.
I'll take the petition with me tonight. Do I have to sign for the petition? Is there any legal, Mr. Carr, is there any legal things that I have to sign to take? I'm just asking. I'll take the petition and I'll start on it Monday.
If the district is formed, is it going to change our assessments on our property? Assessment
The assessor's here. It shouldn't. Probably that would be, if it was sold down the road, that probably the assessment would change slightly then, right?
I guess I didn't hear.
Is this going, the question was, is this going to change their assessments on their property?
Eventually.
What do you mean, when is eventually?
Well, I guess what you have to do is look historically back if property becomes easier to be sold. Water, financing, if you finance, I'm sure anybody who's financed a house, part of the process is the water and sewer. Water becomes a non-issue. Public water is, is an asset. So as we move down the road later on, we may probably be able to draw a difference between those who have public water and those who do not.
And what's the rough estimate of assessment value raised?
Well, as I was talking to Mr. Haney here, I said, it isn't something that because the water district is formed and you have water tomorrow morning that I can arbitrarily go out and say, gee, your house is suddenly worth X number of dollars. I have to see it in the market. And that's something that would be evident in the market over a period of time. And that as water districts are formed, that's something you look at evidence of the value of the sale.
Okay, because with the cost of this, we don't need a jump on our assessments going up.
No, I mean, I'm certainly not, I don't intend to. We are engaging in what we call an annual reassessment program that the state has initiated, and this town is participating in it, and there will be trends that will be used throughout town-wide, but not necessarily in any case where a person has a water district. And I'm going to have to see it. I'm going to have to prove it to you.
Okay, can I get an answer on my question earlier? As far as I have my home plus a mobile home on my property, and if the mobile home is to be removed, which it is going to be eventually, no other home will go on the property, will that unit be able to be taken off?
Some of this is going to be determined how the town itself views vacant land in terms of unit charge. That's something that I do not necessarily do. I mean, I will apply the unit charge that will be reflected on your January bill, but how the town is going to view that's a decision by the town, whether that if we'll say a parcel is an improved parcel and is no longer an improved parcel, then would it drop back to a quarter unit charge or half unit charge? However that is determined by the town.
Because the little charge here on the land usage, as far as what each residence is being charged, as far as like a rural residence with 10 acres or more that's vacant, they're only being charged like a half a unit. And if I have my mobile home removed off my property, I'm still being charged for 2 units. It's just, it doesn't seem fair across the board.
Yeah, I don't know, and there's, I have some experience in seeing water districts put in. We probably have more experience with other individuals who have seen water districts, or especially Aqua here, which is seen a number of water districts. There is no, that I am aware of, there is no set rule of how unit charges are administered.
Okay, well, can something come up with it? Because that may affect me whether signing this petition or not. Sorry to say, but...
Well, our town attorney's right here, you should be able to answer that, along with the engineer.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm confused because generally within the town, and again, people, you correct me if I'm wrong on my facts, but you've got tax parcels, but you've also got building lots or service parcels or residential parcels. And you're talking about a tax parcel in which you have placed multiple units on it without subdivision. And of the parcel.
Well, it's not a subdivision until it's 4 units or 5.
Well, what I'm saying is that I suppose if the town laws permit a building parcel, a tax lot, to have multiple uses on it, multiple residences on it, okay? It may very well be that only one of those residences gets a service line. If you happen to have a mobile home on there, if that becomes another residence and it's permitted by the town without subdivision, I don't think you do remove it. I mean, I think you've got a residential lot there with multiple uses on it.
Well, even if I choose not to hook it up to the water,
well,
no, it's still a unit. It runs by my property. I'm still going to have to pay that other $200 and some odd dollars.
It kind of depends on whether you would go, you see, there are a number of different ways to apportion the costs among the different properties involved. One is assessed valuation, but then you also have the method known as the EDU basis. An EDU is an equivalent dwelling unit, and you can apportion the costs on an EDU basis such that every typical residential home would be equivalent to one EDU, but some other structures, like for instance a mobile home, might be valued at one EDU like a home, or perhaps at 3/4 of an EDU, or even half an EDU. You want to arrive at the most equitable distribution of costs among the property owners involved, and this is something that the town board and the water district is going to need to address.
Typically, I think water districts are normally formulated on a ad valorem basis, unless otherwise specified on a benefit basis. I believe the Oswego campus water district was originally formulated on a, is it a unit basis? No, I think, was it a unit basis, or we wanted to try to transform it to a ad valorem. I think, or no, transform it to a unit basis, didn't we?
Right, but it's essentially at this point in time, it's ad valorem.
Yeah, I think the Oswego Hospital is ad valorem, which would.
But the concern with it being broken up into multiple parcels became a.
Then all of a sudden, yes. Then all of a sudden, yeah. Well, we won't go there. But I think that is going to change to a unit basis, which is going to allow this district to maybe in its formulating stage to be formulated on a unit basis, a benefit basis. This EDU that was reviewed.
And that's a decision in terms of town, how, in terms of unimproved parcels. If you have a vacant lot which is buildable and you own, do you want to combine it so that you only are receiving a single unit charge with your house if it's contingent to your, or contiguous, or the town may decide a quarter unit charge, half unit charge, I'm not sure. That there again, it's trying to determine an equitable way of doing things.
I guess the bottom line for you in your individual property case is that this hasn't been decided yet, and you may have to decide whether to sign or not based on a slight inadequacy of information.
Don't we have an apartment house down there in Seneca Hill too, or is that already in part of the Seneca Hill Water District? How are they divided up down there in that apartment house down there?
I have no idea how that place is divided up. I don't know if that's a single unit or if it's united out to each apartment.
Generally, the most recent water district I'm aware of, like the one that was in Hannibal, the school received 5 units. They were given 5 units. The school system itself. That's not a great help, but I'm just saying is that's how that went. An apartment would be something similar to that.
Well, I would think that what this young lady is talking about is that it probably would have to be formulated on a unit basis. Right? If we have these multiple uses within the town, I think there would be a difficulty in formulating it on an ad valorem basis. And if it is formulated on a unit basis, okay, a unit basis is just a method by which the allocation of cost is spread to in effect to the user. And if you remove then the unit, there probably would, by necessity, be an automatic adjustment to
The rest of the unit.
You know, to the rest of the units, you see.
Could be. You're saying could be.
No, if it were on a unit basis, and the more I think about it, you see, the situation that you describe is difficult for me to conjure sometimes, and that is that you have this one tax parcel with multiple users on it. Okay, I mean, multiple users, not like I don't mean like an apartment complex or something like that, but, you know, a home here and then a mobile home here, which is actually being used as a residence on a single lot, okay? In some jurisdictions, that may not be allowed, okay? But, okay, again, if it's allowed here, and you actually are getting service to that, that mobile home is going to be assessed a unit, or some factor. I imagine one unit, right, Jerry? So now if it's removed and not placed on there again, then there's going to have to be an adjustment to the remaining units.
And if additional units are added.
Or, assuming that to be allowed also, if additional units were added, then of course there would be an adjustment upward. So I think if the mobile home were removed, you would realize an adjustment downward relative to the units as to that tax parcel.
Generally, that's the way it works. You know, same way with an unimproved. If you improved it, then
I still, I don't know.
If you have roughly approximately 66 households in the area, and you decrease by removing a household that no longer exists, then everybody, you still have to pay the bills, you still have to pay the capital debt service.
Part of the 66
so everybody has to pay
So everything
infinitesimally
is
more.
readjusted to everyone all in intact again?
Yeah, it's
So each
the cost
time-
is redistributed, but in an infinitesimal amount.
As I said,
You're talking about removing
the concept of unit, assigning unit, is a way of taking the cost of the district in a formula. It's a method by which you can then assess the costs across the district.
But is that part of the 66 units that are in that
I would believe
area?
so. Yeah, sure.
I'm going to count every one of them.
There isn't 66 units. The 66 units you said, that's just some number he came up with. It's not 66.
Whatever the units
Don't
are.
quote me on that. That was a number we used for the needs assessment survey.
86.75. Originally it's 92.
Yeah, 86.75.
I can imagine.
Well, I know, look, I have an empty parcel. I don't worry about that. I don't care about that.
But on the same token, if you had a vacant parcel out there that's assessed half a unit, and somebody comes in and builds a residence, then that's going to be then assessed at or not assessed, but given a one-unit basis. So it's going to create, in effect, an adjustment across the district to that level, okay? So everybody kind of benefits as development of...
So as soon as I subdivide my property I have on the back of Cooler Road and start selling the building lots, then it's going to offset that trailer she's going to have down there on her piece of property. Because I'm going to be adding to the water district.
If they're in the district and they're getting service and they get assigned, that's right. There's an adjustment.
I own just about 2/3 of the property on the back of Cooler Road, so I'm going to develop property now.
You got more people absorbing the same cost.
Yeah. Okay, get the petitions ready for me.
Mark's got it. One more.
It's just property owners, right?
Yeah. Just property
You
owners.
have a list
in
of
that
all the
area.
property owners?
Yes.
It's not like the husband and wife?
Do I have a list I could go by of everybody?
If you get no benefit, if there's a husband and wife,
Just one.
then one does it. You get no benefit by having both signed. But don't get somebody that's renting it. It's got to be an owner of the property.
Okay, we'll adjourn this and go into our regular board meeting. You want to take 5 minutes?
They may want to leave.
So you guys want to sit to our town board meeting? Or?
Let's take 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know you said you wanted to go to bed. Reservations by calling the town clerk at 593-8288. I don't think these are working. Okay. There's free public dancing will be held August 23rd, starting at 7 p.m. Home occupations are required to be registered with a code enforcement officer. Welcome. No, he's not here, is he?
Yeah.
No. Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
Okay. We'd like to welcome our newest member to the zoning board, Derek Olson. He's back here in the corner. Okay, the planning and zoning meetings will be changed just for the month of September. The planning board will meet September 19th at 7 p.m. and the zoning will meet September 20th at 7 p.m. The zoning updated meeting will resume September 21st from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Hunting licenses will go on sale Monday, August 14th. The town clerk's office will be open Mondays from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. from August 14th to September 4th to accommodate the hunters.
Dennis, you change that. September 4th is Labor Day. So
Okay.
it'll be that Thursday.
It'll be August 30th or
The 7th, maybe?
7th, yes.
Okay. When I made it, I didn't realize it.
Till September 7th then.
Yeah, I changed that.
And we'd like to congratulate Bob Gutermount, who's one of our highway workers, for winning the 2 years in a row as Mr. Super Modified at the Swiggle Speedway. Okay, we'll go into our committee reports. The assessor. You got a long one?
Dennis, did you get the note saying the code enforcement officer will be?
No, I didn't.
Bottom of his report. Oh, it's on your report.
We're finally 4 as of today. I've been talking about it for about 3 months now, so we did get it. We are on version 4 with the county, and we are directly linked to them by as a network. We had so far only 2 Article 7s or certiorieries filed. One of them is Armstrong, or Interface Solutions, whichever way you want to call it, and Miller Brewing. We've got 3 small claims hearings so far, and I believe that will be it. That will be held here the 16th of August. And those are Turner, Greco, and Hammond are the 3 small claims that are being held here. That's about it for this month.
Building inspector.
Okay, the code enforcement, I guess I'm going to give it. It's the activity report for July. Single-family dwelling, 3 at $919. Manufactured homes, 4 at $574. Commercial, 2 at $334. Accessory buildings, 1 for $48. Septic systems, 1 for $25. Swimming pool, 3 for $105. Decks, 2 for $40. And additions, 2 for $74, for a total of 18 issued, $2,119. Inspections are new constructions, 54, building code 4, zoning 43. 101 issued. Violations notice issued, zoning 2, building codes 4, for a total of 6. Certificate of occupancy 4, certificate of compliance 2. And the code enforcement office will be on vacation all next week.
Okay, dog control. There was 45 total number of calls received, 11 total number of dogs housed at the kennel this month, 4 total number of dogs at the kennel this meeting date, 4 number of dogs adopted, 1 dog redeemed, 2 dogs euthanized, 3 total number of dogs reported lost, 2 total number of dog bites reported, 316 total miles traveled this month. And the repairs at the kennel have been completed. Okay, planning.
The regular monthly meeting of the Town of Volney Planning Board was held on Wednesday, August 2nd at 7 p.m. The minutes for June and July were reviewed, and a motion was made to accept the minutes, and the motion was seconded. A vote was taken, and the minutes were accepted for June and July. The board discussed submitting the billing for the books the board received. It was noted that the approval for the purchases of these training books was passed at a previous meeting. The board discussed next month's meeting date and moved it to September 19th. After some discussion, it was unanimously agreed upon. Therefore, September 19th will be the new date for next month's planning board meeting. Having no further business, the meeting was then adjourned. Respectfully submitted, Shirley Bench, Chairperson, Town of Volney Planning Board.
Recreation.
Missed highways.
Yeah.
Highway. Okay.
Christmas maintenance. Supplies and maintenance. Sorry, expenses for July 2000. Supplies and maintenance, $56,774.26. Payroll, $19,185.85. For a total of $75,960.11. The payroll hours as follows: 413 hours in machinery repair, 67 hours on mowing, 589 hours on paving, 171 hours on hauling, 8 hours on signs and guide rails, 162 and a half hours on buildings and grounds, for a total of 1,411 hours. For the month of July, we used 224.2 gallons of gas and 1,570.8 gallons of diesel fuel.
Now recreation.
On July 25th, we had our Arts in the Park. It was an art activity that was done by the Oswego County Traveling Arts. We had 21 kids attend, and that's the best attendance we've had on that so far. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. On August 4th, we went to the zoo, which is now known as the Rosamond Gifford Zoo. The new rainforest exhibit was opened. It was really nice. Some of the kids who happened to be standing at the elephant exhibit at the time, they're now parading the elephants up by the fence so that you can pet them. And I believe everyone had a really good time. I'm now working on the fall plans, and the information should be sent home with a volunteer for the first part of September.
Zoning.
All members were in attendance, and we opened with a public hearing for Donald Ryan, and we recessed that till next month. And the public hearing for Michael Geyer was open, and there was no one there to oppose it. And the board approved a 6-foot side yard variance and a 45-foot rear variance for Michael Geyer. The area variance for Carmela Farfaglia was denied due to the county's denial based on the environmental impact it would have on the area. The Volney Zoning Board agreed with their review. A copy of the certificate was mailed to Mr. Farfaglia. Jennifer Beyer was on the agenda and was tabled as she didn't attend the meeting. I will put her on the agenda for next meeting, which will be the third Wednesday of September. We were also glad to welcome our new member to the board, Derek Olson. I'm sure he'll be an added asset and has much to offer the town of Volney.
Old business. This crossed off on mine, so God was, we didn't have a report.
She's working on that deal with the church over there this week. New business. We've got one here for sure. It's dear board members. This is from the Code Enforcement Office again. The subject of changing State Route 3 to a B1 zone convenience business has been discussed many times. In our township, we really have very little area that is zone B1. In order for our town to continue growing and develop, we need to provide an area for this to occur in. I would like to propose that the following zone change to B1 be considered for the following areas. State Route 3 from the City of Fulton line proceeding in an easterly direction to a point 100 feet east of the Baldwin Road. State Route 3 from a point 200 feet west of County Route 6 proceeding east to Volney Plurmal Town line. The area encompassed shall extend 750 feet from the center line of the State Route 3 to the north and south. It is obvious to anyone who travels this area that it is largely commercial and business anyways. I have left the area between Baldwin Road and County Route 6 as it is until the developer who purchased the Vant property determines what he wishes to do with the property. Thank you for your time and consideration in this manner, Dan Russo. We want to discuss this at all, or this needs to be sent to the planning board? Okay, we can go into resolutions.
Resolution 2000-119, approval of minutes. Move to approve the regular meeting minutes of July 13th, 2000, having been previously distributed to the board for review without reading them. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Counselor Hartranft.
Yes.
Counselor Conley.
Yes.
Counselor Lockwood.
Yes.
Counselor Kyle.
Yes.
Supervisor Lockwood.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Resolution 2000-120, transfer of funds. Move to authorize the supervisor to instruct the bookkeeper to transfer the following funds from account 81010.4 Town Board Contractual to 81010.1 Town Board Personal Services. This is to pay for the, we all know what this is about, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't need to explain it then. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Counselor Hartranft.
Yes.
Counselor Conley.
Yes.
Counselor Lockwood.
Yes.
Counselor Kyle.
Yes.
Supervisor Lockwood.
Yes.
Motion is carried 5-0.
Resolution 2000-121, payment of vouchers. Move to authorize the supervisor to instruct the bookkeeper to pay the following vouchers from the appropriate accounts. Vouchers 139 through 150, Highway Fund, in the amount of $56,774.26. Vouchers number 28, Seneca Hill Fund, in the amount of $2,617.56. And vouchers 221 through 246, General Fund, in the amount of $11,085.09. On abstract number 8. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Counselor Hartranft.
Yes.
Counselor Conley.
Yes.
Counselor Lockwood.
Yes.
Counselor Kyle.
Yes.
Supervisor Lockwood.
Yes.
Motion is carried 5-0.
Resolution 2000-122, authorization for street light on Crescent Drive. Move to authorize the deputy supervisor to contact Niagara Mohawk concerning the petition received July 13th, requesting that a street light be placed on the corner of Crescent Drive and County Route 57 South. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Yes.
You tell me which one? There's two entrances to Crescent Drive. Is this the one across from Nestle Park, or is it down by Nestle?
No, it's the one down closest this way.
I want to pay Niagara Mohawk twice to do this.
Yes.
Dewey Reynolds, Fish and Game Club for Pathfinder. It is the north end of Crescent Drive. Not the one up by Nestle, it's the one that's on the north end, nearest to the grass across Lumley's.
When I put south on there, I meant the south of 57 and not north. Because
57 south. do 57 south, I was talking about 57 north for the Sligo.
That's what you have.
Right, that's what I put as,
Means all of everything.
I put south on there.
South is Volney.
Yeah, right.
It does say south.
Did you get a second?
Yes. I
Yes.
seconded it.
Okay.
Counselor Hartranft?
Yes.
Counselor Conley?
Yes.
Counselor Lockwood?
Yes.
Counselor Kyle?
Yes.
Supervisor Lockwood?
Yes.
Motion is carried 5-0.
Resolution 2001-22, contaminated soil disposal. Move to accept the proposal received from Clement and Company, Syracuse, New York, to provide loading and hauling of contaminated soil to a New York State DEC-approved landfill at the total estimated cost of $29.66 per ton. Other proposals were JWJ Incorporated, Oswego, New York, for trucking and disposal of contaminated soil at $33 per ton, and Certified Environmental Services Incorporated, Syracuse, New York, for loading and transporting of contaminated soil at $31.50 per ton. I move it.
I'll second it.
Counselor Hartranft?
Yes.
Counselor Conley?
Yes.
Counselor Lockwood?
Yes.
Counselor Kyle?
Yes.
Supervisor Lockwood?
Yes.
Motion is carried 5-0.
Resolution 2001-23, move to send to the planning board the request of Dan Rusoff for consideration of changing State Route 3 to B1.
I'll second it.
Counselor Hartranft?
Yes.
Wait, well, can I ask you a question? The way you went there, it looks like what you're out talking about, it looks like you're trying to change zoning, leaving out one section to benefit one person. And when you change zoning, the town recommends zoning change, it should benefit everybody. And then black out one area between a section of the road like that, waiting for the owner to make his mind up what he wants to do on there.
I'm sending, I'm not changing this. This resolution was to send it to the planning board. That's their, well, what they want to do with it, not what...
Talk about that equation about going to planning board, you know.
I think that, to be honest with you, you know, if this actually goes through, I don't think that property will be exempted. I think, to be honest with you, in the meetings I've been at, the developer would probably prefer that it be zoned commercial. I think that's what's holding them up, the fact that I think it's presently zoned agricultural, which really, that's 2-acre lots. He's really stuck now, so this is for their review and consideration, right?
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
Counselor Conley?
Aye.
Counselor Lockwood?
Yes.
Counselor Kyle?
Yes.
Supervisor Lockwood?
Yes.
Motion is carried 5-0.
Okay, any other public comments? Okay, future meetings. August 16th, the Senior Citizens Potluck Supper is at 6 p.m. August 23rd, there's free public dancing at 7 p.m. September 5th is our bill signing agenda in preparation. September 6th is another seniors potluck lunch at 12 p.m. September 7th is our next regular town board meeting. September 19th is our planning board. September 20th is a zoning board. September 21st is a zoning update. September 27th is free public dancing.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Counselor Hartranft?
Yes.
Counselor Conley?
Yes.
Counselor Lockwood?
Yes.
Counselor Kyle?
Yes.
Supervisor Lockwood?
Yes. Yes.